told you those savages couldn't be trusted.
People's idea of Stonehenge is of a mystical and mysterious place filled with fog and chanting druids. The first part of that is pretty true, but that second bit about the druids? Yeah, not so much. I'm Siobhan, and this is Anglophenia. Stonehenge was built over many hundreds of years, from the late Neolithic until the early Bronze Age. The stones were raised somewhere between 2400 and 2200 BCE, but the earthworks surrounding them had been there in some kind of shape or form almost 1,000 years before that. The Celts didn't move into Britain from mainland Europe until about 500 BCE. That means that there weren't any druids around until almost 2,000 years after Stonehenge was built. So it would have been an ancient monument even to the druids, which is pretty amazing. Who were the druids anyway? Well, these men served as priests in Celtic society during the Iron Age. Most of what we know about the druids comes from the writings of Britain's Roman invaders, so they're a bit unreliable. The druids were thought to carry out religious rituals, including human sacrifice, and they were really big into oak trees. Like really into them. Where did this connection between Stonehenge and the Druids come from? Well, it was first suggested by John Aubrey in the 1640s, but it was this guy, William Stukely, who really popularized the idea. Stukely was an 18th century antiquarian and, well, a little bit eccentric. He was fascinated by Stonehenge and its surrounding area, which is covered in other strange ancient monuments. Now, to be fair, there is some logic to him assigning the building of Stonehenge to the Celts. If you look at historical sources, they are the first mentioned inhabitants of Great Britain. He was also the first person to notice that the standing stones were built to line up with the solstices. They were important dates in the Celtic calendar. There were also many theories about the building of Stonehenge circulating at that time, including that it was a Roman temple and that it was built by ancient giants. And there was a general fascination with druids, the occult, and other weird and mystical beliefs during this period. For example, Sir Isaac Newton, a friend of Stukely's, wrote extensively on biblical prophecies about the end of the world. But our friend Stukely really took it to...
I didn't know that. Newton wrote about biblical prophecies about the end of the world. I really had no clue about that.
the next level.
I only knew about his, science stuff.
He became obsessed with the idea of druids, to the point where he built a druidic garden behind his house, he started doing rituals at Stonehenge, and he even started signing his name Archdruid Kindernax. He wrote an elaborate work published in 1740 called Stonehenge, a temple restored to the British Druids, in which he laid out all of his ideas. Now, there was some good archaeology in there, but most of it was pretty crazy. But when you repeat nonsense enough times, somehow it has a way of sticking. Kind of like viral videos. Oh, I'm gonna ask you this later, but please share this on Facebook. The real builders of Stonehenge remain fairly mysterious, although researchers at the University of Sheffield have done some pretty great excavations there recently. Some of the stones were brought all the way from Wales. Wales! That's hundreds of miles away over very unwelcome, hilly terrain. And remember, these people hadn't even invented the wheel.
The wheel wasn't even invented? How? Maybe she's about to tell us.
Man, I am glad I have the internet so I can just fill my time with stuff. So that's where the connection between Stonehenge and the Druids comes from. One man's obsession with an ancient religion turned into an idea so universally accepted that it's almost always taken as fact. There are even modern day Druids who have adopted Stonehenge as a holy site. What other British myths should I explore? Tell me in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe.
I didn't know anything about Druids or what they were until I just watched this video. But I believe she said the Druids are thought to be the ones who built Stonehenge or whatever. But then she said Stonehenge was built 2,000 years before the Druids were there. So I'm gonna have to research this topic a little bit more. If you guys have caught anything that I misunderstood or can enlighten me more about who these Druids were, I would appreciate that. But I know that was a quick video. I'm out.